Good morning everyone. In this video we're going to analyze the live price action for EU and DXY to see what day trading opportunities there may be today. So as always, going to start off here on EU on the daily. We have EU on the top, DXY on the bottom. So what's the daily showing us? Well, if we have a look, we can see yesterday we had quite a large bearish engulfing day, which is to be expected, right? After we took this previous weekly high here at a possible point of resistance as well. So good source of buy side liquidity taken up here, closed out as that rejection doji candle and had quite a large bearish move yesterday, attracted towards the imbalance we left behind as well from that Monday close. So now from a daily perspective, it's, are we going to continue with a bearish move, right? We do have drawn price below, imbalance with order block down here, more into a discount. Okay, so potential for this leg here, this new bullish leg we have, to pull back towards more of a discount. We'll see what happens there. Don't want to get too far into the future price action. Today obviously we've moved bearish this morning, opened up bearish, taken previous daily low and some previous days lows from last week as well actually. So we'll see if we get any sort of sell side liquidity reaction from there and price continues going bullish or just pulls back somewhat on the internal sort of lower time frames. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, potential for lower prices I think from coming from this zone here, and the same on DXY, right? We had this support zone here with order block and imbalance, which was filled by that Monday sweep of the previous weekly low, and we've moved bullish a little bit from that point forward. So let's go down to the 4 hour. Let's see what that time frame looks like. So here on the 4 hour, just to go over most of our January price action, right? We can see that price began to create bullish structure and order flow here in those previous weeks, making high highs, higher lows. Then we took that previous weekly high and we came down pretty aggressive, right, with bearish price action back down to the discount of our bullish leg here, this bullish leg that I'm pointing at just from this zone here. So price took buy side liquidity, came down pretty hard into our imbalance and order block. Now over Tuesday, price of course hit this order block here and we found support. You can see we then created a range, right? So we've ranged most of that day and we're still within that range at this time. So not great price action coming out of this order block, right? We didn't immediately give a bullish switch and just continue going on to indicate higher highs. So prices got stuck here. We are within a range. We're still within that range, even though we've now swept below it. So we've taken some buy side liquidity here in the last 4 hours, had a bearish move, taken sell side liquidity and coming back up within that range. So the reason I've removed the order block drawing from here is just because we've now swept below the order block. So even though we haven't invalidated it, we may still close within it. I just wanted to concentrate on the sell side liquidity. So as I said, we've taken previous daily low and some previous lows from last week. Thursday, we swept below that. We're having some sort of reaction from there. So will this sell side liquidity create a bullish reaction to maybe come up now towards this gap, this draw on price? So either short-term bullish reaction to come up and just fill this and then reject it to continue going bearish, maybe down towards that daily imbalance area here, or we could go on to make higher highs, right? But we'll see. We did make this sort of structural shift here where we went up, swept, broke down this internal low on the 4 hour, but then we're being held by this order block here. So that may be an indication of a possible switch in structure for a further pullback, right? Especially on the 1 hour where that would be a higher high, lower low. So we'll see. For me, I think, as I said, the higher time frames are showing for potential further bearish price action. But once you get into these lower time frames here, like on the 4 hour, we have a range and I'm very concerned with just getting out of this range, right? And seeing where price indicates where it's going. So I don't have an obvious bias here for you on the 4 hour, but I do believe there is still potential from this sell side liquidity for us to pull back into this zone here, right? At least before heading lower. Okay, so that would be the closest thing I have to a bias, is that I think we have possibly more potential to go into this zone here and see this and see if it turns into a resistance to go further down. If price doesn't do that and continues to break down, then I'd reevaluate from there, because of course we have this imbalance here, drawing price, and imbalance here on DXY, which could potentially draw price too. But again, we also have that drawn price below here and above here. So there's potential for both ways. And that's why I don't have a more definite bias from this price action at the moment, right? This hasn't shown any great bullish price action come from this area just yet to convince me of that either. So let's go down to the 1 hour. Let's see what that looks like for us. So similar deal here on the 1 hour. Of course, you can see this range a lot more clearly, how many candles were used up creating this range overnight and into today. As I said, the 1 hour also swept that buy side liquidity, broke down, closed below this low, made its way down to this order block here. We've now swept below it. Okay, so I had removed that drawing. However, there was still an order block available here as potential support where this imbalance was, right? So the last candle in the order block, potentially we've drawn into that, and that can show us support. So sell side liquidity, possible support order block, which could give maybe a bit more of a favoritism towards that long bias coming from this zone here, because we have so many confluences such as sell side liquidity, order block support, previous daily low as well, draw on price above. And then with DXY, we also have potentially just about taking that previous daily high buy side liquidity. We still have a bit to go if we want to mitigate this order block here. So all of those confluences would be on side to also move back towards this drawn price imbalance left behind from the previous day. So in terms of the biases, right, whether long or short, these are kind of negatives for a short bias. Okay, so it doesn't make me feel confident going short, even though the higher time frames have that potential, given that this would all be sort of traffic to me. These are negatives that may potentially reverse price, right? If we come up above this previous daily high, mitigate this order block here, while we're also coming and mitigating this 1 hour POI further, this would be a negative to me because price could reverse and definitely go towards this drawn price. So I wouldn't like to short. So yes, I am leaning more towards a long bias if I have to trade. Of course, like I said, we're in a range at the moment and price isn't fantastic, so there's no need to force any type of trading. I would just be more inclined to go long for sure using all of these confluences than to go short and trade against them. So I hope that's clear. I know I've said a lot because there is those conflicting price actions, but they're just something to be aware of. Any questions, just let me know in the comments. It's fine to wait for clarity in the markets before trading, right? So there's no need to force a trade today. This is just what I see and which bias has more potential than the other today. So far today, price has taken a buy side liquidity, had bearish move, taken sell side liquidity. So now we could well just seek out more buy side liquidity above these stacked highs here, okay, within this range. So I want to see us do something outside of this range, preferably. We're yet to see any great bullish behavior come from this zone here, but potentially, of course, we can mitigate this in the New York session, and maybe then we'll see something come into the market, right? We would have SMC divergence as well, of course, because we have taken out this low here where we have not taken out this high here on DXY. So SMC in the market as well. So if we mitigate this zone here, again, there's a lot of confluences for EU to go bullish, at least temporarily, to get some buy side liquidity or mitigate this zone here. So I think I've said enough. So let's go down to the M15. Let's see what potential there is to go with maybe our favored bias of longs from all of these confluences. So here on the M15, that's what price action is looking like at the current moment. I'll just point something out because this is a mistake. Well, I can't say mistake, but this is a general issue that I would used to have, not so much anymore, but where I would lose trades because the lower time frame execution strategy forms and you can't see past that and you think you need to trade those. So we have buy side liquidity swept above Asia here. All right, we've left behind a very clear order block here on the M15, very clear break of structure to the downside with momentum. We've now got inducement. So if we were to pull back to this zone here, right, potentially with corrective, we could then short. All right, so this sort of trade here would have caught me out in the past, possibly to then look for these shorts. However, I'm very unlikely to trade that. Like I said, for all of the confluences, we have sell side liquidity here from previous lows. We have 1 hour order block here. We're about to really just take that previous daily high buy side liquidity and go into this 1 hour order block with SMC divergence. If price pulls back to this zone here, I would say it's quite likely we're going to take the buy side liquidity above these highs, right? It adds to the potential of the buy side liquidity above these highs being taken and going with the higher time frame towards this price draw. Okay, so that is definitely against you from trading in this zone here. So I'd rather not lose that trade. I'd rather wait, see if it holds and plays out. So that sort of mini lesson over. What would I look for to go long? Well, potentially I would want DXY to come up just a little bit more into this, take some more buy side liquidity, right? And then we get that breakdown, okay? And then I would want to see EU maybe form a structure. It would be nice if we had a structural high around here and then took those sell side liquidities from the internal lows and then break above this high here, right? It doesn't have to be this high above it, but this high here, and then we can pull back down to that lower time frame order block with imbalance, right, where that momentum entered the market from this sell side liquidity, okay, from this buy side liquidity on DXY here and order block, and then we can trade back up towards these potential highs here for buy side liquidity and this price draw. So that's what I would like to see if I were convinced to trade today, with the order block left behind here, potentially inducement from that corrective pullback around here, break of structure above maybe this high, but potentially it's going to be this high, depending on how price moves, and then set our orders to go long. Stop loss just below the lows, of course, aim for somewhere around there. So that's potentially going with the higher time frame confluences that I see, and the liquidity, of course. Daily has potential to keep moving short and keep going down. No rush to get into any trades. Again, I want to see us come out of this range preferably, but this is just a potential idea that I could identify because it has confluences to back it up. It's not something that needs trading, right? But we'll see if it presents itself at the time. So I hope that was clear. I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, just let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.